Okay. Having mentioned about the conservation equations, let me in this slide, I just give a very brief layer of what is finite volume approach. So what three equations I showed, the three conservation equations can be put in a very short form as shown here. So all these three equations are put in this form where the first term represents the unsteady term, where W is called as the conserved vector variable, and F is the flux vector, which is a function of this conserved variable. So it is put in a very compact form where F is a flux vector, W is the conserved variable vector. So these conservation equations are solved with respect to each of a small finite volume, which is shown here. So what is the approach? If you see this equation, if it is integrated over a finite elemental volume as shown here, and using Green's theorem, you can convert this volume integral into a surface integral, and assuming an average value for the conserved vector in the cell at a point C shown here as the cell center, we can write this equation in a semi-discretized form. Semi-discretized meaning that this integral, the flux integral over the surface, now is shown here, and this is still in a differential form. So these fluxes are integrated over the cells are faces, and assuming that W is a constant within the cell, we get a ODE of this form. And once this ODE also is discretized with a suitable time discretization, we get an algebraic equations. Now writing this kind of conserved equation in terms of discretized form for the whole set of finite volumes in surrounding a body. For example, I am just showing for a example, there is a flight vehicle. So the space around this is discretized into a lot of this type of finite volumes. So each of this finite volume, this equation is discretized, and this forms a big set of simultaneous equations, which is the heart of the numerical procedure. Okay, so having said about the finite volume, I just show here a few examples which you would have seen in the morning. So here is an aircraft with the fuselage, wing, then the engine. So this is quite a complex geometry. To begin with, when the CFD started, the multi-block structure grid was one of the common approach. So these kind of grids even today they do give very good results, but it takes a lot of time. But it takes a lot of time in terms of maneuvers. So much over the period of development of the CFD, after the structured grids, people came up with what is called as unstructured grids, which I am showing here in this figure, a cross section of an unstructured grid, volume grid. So you would see these type of grids are quite different from the structured grid. I will not go into the details of this. I'm sure you have heard about this. And later people started having a combination of these two. That is, near the body, you would have a layer of structured type of grids, and away from the body, you would have unstructured, and construct a sort of hybrid grids. So these are all good. Even now, I think these approach, especially the hybrid type of grids, are still in practice. And this is very much popular among the CFD industry for the industry problems. So why do we then look for something beyond the structured and unstructured grids? Let me just show a few examples. So this is, for example, the space shuttle. So you see that there is two different parts, one which would separate out and the core vehicle would then come back. So in studying these kind of problems, what happens when they separate out, that means to simulate these kind of problems, you would have to generate grids at every instant. For example, this is the example of a unsteady movement of the body. So this would require one to generate grids at every stage of separation to get to know what is the flow field around this. Another example where this kind of difficulties to some extent could be avoided is the chimera approach. That is, if you see here, I am showing a portion of a geometry where this is a wing, this is pylon, this attached to this is a body. So in this kind of applications, for example, this one, what actually is studied is this body which is attached to the underside of undercarriage of the wing. This separates out, and there are studies which are required to know whether the body which is released will safely separate out from the from the parent body, or the aerodynamics, if it is such that, could hit back to the parent body, which is definitely not desired. So these are the kind of problems where the conventional methods of grid generation would become quite difficult, if not impossible. It is possible, but if one looks into structured grid, then at every time instant when this body which is separating from the parent aircraft, you need to continuously generate grids, whether it is structured grid or unstructured grid. So it would require a lot of effort. So people came up with something called as chimera approach. That is, you would have one grid around the main parent aircraft and one grid around the body which is separating out. As the body which moves, the grid which is attached to this smaller body which is moving will move along with this body. So there will be an overlap of this one grid with the other main parent grid. So and at every time instant, they would keep track of the overlap region of these two grids and solve the governing equations over this set of overlap grids. This was called as chimera approach. So even here, what happens when the governing equations are discretized and solved over this set of finite volumes, there are regions of overlap between the parent grid and the grid which is attached to the moving body. In the region of overlap, there is continuous exchange of the solution across these overlapping portions. So this would again lead to a sort of interpolation of solutions, hence again loss of accuracy. So these are the conditions which led to the idea of, can we do away with this kind of conventional generation of grids? This is a typical example where I'm showing would there be really a need of mesh-free approach? See, this is an example where I'm showing, you can see on the left-hand side, you have one configuration where the body is separating out, and at each instant, the separating body itself is quite complex. Lot of fins, there is leading, I mean, you see fins at the end portion of this body, even at the near the nose of the body, and the parent aircraft itself is quite complex. So whatever approach one uses, whether it is structured grid or unstructured grid or chimera approach, definitely a very lot of effort is required in generating the grid itself at every instant of the time. Here is another example, which is further more complex than this. You see, there is multiple bodies which are released. Apart from this, each body, as it is moving, you can see down in the trajectory, after some time, the body configuration itself changes. Complex fins open up. So how do you really generate time-dependent, whether structured, multi-block structured grids, unstructured grids, or how do you do bookkeeping for the kind of chimera grids? So these are the kind of situations where one would really look into a mesh-free approach. So what is mesh-free approach? So this slide gives you a fair bit of peeping into what is a mesh-free method. So what I'm showing here is a cross-section of a typical aircraft. So here you don't see any grid. What you see is just a cloud of points, that is discrete points distributed around the geometry. So this kind of generation of cloud of points would be much easier than generating a set of grids, which would be either structured or unstructured or whatever hybrid approach. So suppose I say, given a configuration and I say I could get a cloud of points like this, of course, how do we get a cloud of points is the core issue which has to be addressed with the mesh free solvers, which I will explain a little bit down the line. So given a configuration, what we do is we generate a cloud of points. So how do I generate this cloud? Of course, I would go back to the grid generators, but I would not be really worried about quality grids, generating the grids, especially in terms of what we call as the directions. If it is a structured grid, you have 3 directions. You have to really worry about all the coordinate directions. No such thing is required here. So what we do is we use the grid generation as a simple tool and generate a grid around each of the component of the aircraft. For example, you can see here, if I consider this as the cross section of the aircraft, this is the main fuselage and the wing. I will generate one separate grid around this component. Similarly, you can see 1, 2, 3. Suppose here also in the little outboard side, you can both the sides, you can see 2 attachments. So there are a number of attachments. What I'll do is I'll generate one single grid around each component, and I will source the points from this grid. Rather, I will not use the grid in terms of coordinate lines or in terms of finite cells or faces. I will just source my points from these individual grids which are generated around each individual component, combine all of them and get a cloud of points. So this is the basic principle of the mesh free method. That is, we will use the available grid generation tools to source our cloud of points. And to make the job much easier, I will generate simple grids around each of the component, source those points from each of this grid and combine them to form a big cloud of points. So all this thing said is, having said it is quite easy to, make this statement, but we really have to struggle to build a sort of, before we really solve the equations through CFD tools, we need to generate a generalized preprocessor which takes care of this whole process. That is, source the points from each component grid, combine them together, and there are a lot of other operations which I will not be able to mention all the details. So when I take each individual grid and source those points, many of them could overlap. And for example, the grid around this component, the points I would be sourcing from this grid, some of them will enter into the body of others. So I'll have to do a lot of suitable operations so as to delete the points which enter into the solid bodies. Having said that, all these kind of preprocessor operations would be done in a very intelligent preprocessor. Once the preprocessor operates on this the first source of points, it will do all these cleaning up operations. Then at the end of it, I'll get a cloud of points as shown in this figure. So the whole idea you can see is explained in a very simple term here. You see 2 aerofoils here. For the sake of explanation, I have taken a very simple configuration. So suppose if one wanted to generate a grid around this structured or unstructured, one has to really take care of a lot of details about the body and near body resolutions. What do? I will still use a grid generation tool, but I will use it in a very easier way. Suppose you can see 2 circles, one red and one green. So I have used a simple polar grid around each body here, then source those points from these 2 grids. Then outside these 2 circles, I have generated an unstructured grid, source the points from them and combined all of them to form a single cloud of points. So this is the principle. Same principle is applied to a complex body shown here. For example, I have the complete parent aircraft. So I would generate one unstructured grid around this. And you can see I have just highlighted one body attached to this aircraft. I will generate one separate grid around this also and source the points from this grid, source the points from the bigger grid. Similar action would be done for all the components which are attached to this main aircraft. It is not only this, the components attached to the main aircraft. Suppose I can separate out components from the main aircraft also. Suppose I want a different set of grids around each component of the aircraft itself. I can generate one grid around the wing, one grid around the vertical tail, one around the fuselage, and combine them together as the problem would dictate. At the end, I would combine the points source from all these individual grids and form a big set of points which will define my cloud of points. Okay, so this I hope gives an idea of why mesh free. So I will again repeat the explanation. Why mesh free? When the body, when the geometry becomes quite complex, then generation of grids in the conventional way would require a lot of efforts in terms of manpower and man hours. So what we would do is we will generate a cloud of points by by combining these several grids and getting the points from source from these grids will give me one set of cloud of points, and I will try to solve those equations discretely at each of these nodes. Instead of finite volume, I would get the solution at each of these discrete points. So how do I get that? Okay. So this is again the conservation equations written in a compact form, slightly expanded. So what I showed W previously actually is now written as U. This is the conserved vector. What I showed, the flux vector is split into 3 separate directions: X fluxes in X, Y, Z directions, and also positive and negative fluxes. So this also represents the conservation equation. So here you can see our idea is to update the solution or solve for these equations. By solving for this, marching in time, we would get the solution for this U, which is the conserved vector. So in order to march in time for this, we would then require to evaluate the derivatives of these various quantities. What are these quantities? These are the derivatives of the flux vectors, and the flux vector itself has 3 components: X, Y, Z, and each component itself is a vector in terms of components having representing the mass, momentum, and energy. So the heart of the problem is how do we evaluate these derivatives on a given distribution of points? So this is the real question one should answer. That is, suppose given a body, given a complex geometry, we want to solve the conservation equations. Instead of solving them over finite volumes, we would like to solve this equation at each discrete point. That in turn would require us to evaluate these derivatives at each point. Once we are able to get approximation to these derivatives, then I can march in time for the unsteady term and I'll be able to solve the equation. So this is the approach for mesh-free method. Now we should try to understand how do we approximate these derivatives. I'll come back to this slide again after 1 or 2 slides. So let me go back to very simple 1D. So repeating the same problem, but simplifying it in terms of 1 dimension. The same problem can be repeated. See, suppose we want the derivative of any quantity, let us say F, and this quantity F in particular, with reference to if we are trying to solve the conservation equations, this F will represent the fluxes. And in turn, we need to approximate the derivative of those fluxes. So I have generalized all those things into, let me say there is a quantity F, which in our case is actually the fluxes. We need to evaluate the derivative of this flux at any point. Let us say this is a distribution of points in 1D. Let me concentrate my attention at a particular point, say P0. So at P0, if I put my attention, so at this point, I want to evaluate the derivative of any quantity called F. So how do I do? So at P, what I'll do is I look around. There are certain other points in front and back. So if it is 2D or 3D, it will be a set of points in the neighborhood in 2D plane. If it is a 3D, then it will be in the neighborhood of a small sphere. So in 1D, what happens? It is in one direction, either on the back or front of this point P0. So given my attention having fixed at a point P0, I will choose certain set of points in the neighborhood. Let us say, let me call it as Pi. That is, I is a point I is in the neighborhood of P. And at all and what I have marked here with the dashed oval line in the oval shape indicates the neighborhood of the point P naught. So given the quantity F, if we assume we know these quantities at all these locations, our objective here is to evaluate the derivative of F at P naught with the data of F available at point P naught as well as in the neighborhood, that is I. So the same thing is explained here, just written out in a short form. So what I can do is, I know Fi, I know F naught, and Fi means in all the surrounding region of O. So if I expand, I can write Fi expanding around point O using Taylor series as shown here. So Fi is F naught plus delta Xi Fx naught. I mean, I have shown here terms up to second order. So using this equation, see what we can do is, if you look at this equation, of course, I have stopped after the second order term. HOT represents the higher order terms. So if you see at this equation, in this equation, what are we really interested at? I am saying that we know the value of F at the surrounding points and O. That means Fi and Fo are known. So what is unknown is Fx naught. That is the derivative of the quantity F. So this is what we are really interested in. Suppose if I am able to evaluate this, that means I have a way of finding the derivatives of the fluxes at any point in the cloud of points. Once I know this, then having evaluated having approximated these derivatives, I can have a suitable time marching scheme from which I can solve directly for the conserved vectors. Okay, having written this, you can see if I take up to second order terms, say I will represent delta Fi as Fi minus F naught, then these are the terms in terms of the length, I mean the difference in length, delta X, the length from point O to any point I. So I will define now a term E as delta Fi minus delta Fx O here. So if I stop at this point, then these are the terms which are left out in the higher order terms. So if I use only this much, that means this is the error in the approximation. So I define an error like this, E like this, square it up. So if I now differentiate, if I now try to minimize this with respect to the quantity of interest is this derivative, then I get an expression for the derivative of interest. So this is the expression. So what this expression says, let us slowly look at this. Later I can really go fast. So this is the heart of mesh-free. So what does this formula say? This is a very simple formula in 1D. Given as set of points in the neighborhood of a point O, and I know the values of the quantities of interest, say the quantity of interest is F, I have now arrived at a simple 1D formula, which is called as least squares formula, which will give me an approximation to the derivatives in terms of the quantity F and the distances delta X. So this is the basic approach of mesh-free. I mean, whether it is 2D or 3D, the formula becomes a little more complex, but the approach is exactly similar. So what does this tell us? I repeat again. At any point O, and for a quantity of interest F, the values of F, which are also known at its neighborhood, then by using the data of F at point O as well as its neighborhood and using Taylor expansion up to the order of accuracy, I'll be able to approximate for the derivative in terms of simple least squares formula as I showed here. Right? So this will be the exactly similar procedure, either it is 2D or 3D. So now I go back to a few slides which I had shown back. So this is the conservation equation. Now what do? I use exactly similar principle. Given a point O, I know I'll try to get the data of the surrounding nodes, which I am representing by a sphere. This is the near neighborhood of point O. And I know the quantity of interest at its neighborhood also. For example, it could be X split flux. So these quantities, I assume will be known from the previous iteration. So I know these quantities, I'll use all those things and do the least squares procedure. Then I'll be able to approximate this derivative. Similarly, all the derivatives. Once this is done, then this become, and assuming U to be constant within U to be the value. Here there is nothing like a finite volume, and assume U is the point at O, then I'll discretize with a suitable time marching, then I'll be able to solve this kind of equations on an arbitrary distribution of points. But the real effort here, instead of in finite volume, the lot of efforts go into building of those finite volumes. But instead here, what happens, we will be able to solve on a arbitrary distribution of points, what we call as cloud of points. But yet there will be difficulties. In one of my previous seniors, he used to quote that whatever easy method you find out, there is always conservation of difficulties. See, we have avoided difficulty in one place, but actually that difficulty turns up in some other place in different forms. So what is that difficulty in mesh-free approach is, how do I, say, given a point, how do I identify these are the neighborhood points? So this is actually the problem of a sort of geometry problem, and the preprocessor is the place where all these difficulties are addressed. So that will be a different topic. I will not go into it. So when I say that mesh-free is a different approach, it can handle any kind of geometry, yes, but definitely there has to be an effort put in some other place. So there is nothing like a very easy approach in whatever method we do. But the difficulty here becomes tractable, and it's much easier to solve problems where the geometry is complex and further you have moving components. Okay, so these are the lot of scientists who have really helped me. It is not me alone who I have been able to do this kind quantum of and quality of work. Of course, we started with this idea with my guide, Professor Deshpande, who was at IISc at that time. For a period of time, lot of people have been doing work with us, and this is the team at NAL. Keshav, Niranjan, Mani, Shikhar, and of course, Professor. And these are the various stages at which we, through the development of the mesh-free method. So in the early 90s, this basic idea was started in 2D with Dr. Ghosh, who is now the project director of the AMCA program at ADA. He was the person who made the beginning. So little after 2-3 years, I joined the group. So I developed further this method for an arbitrary distribution of points in 2D, and also developed the method for three dimensions. And further also along with Professor Deshpande, we further developed this method for moving boundaries, and a lot of validation exercises over a period of time. It doesn't happen in a few months or years. It takes quite a long time. We should have the patience, tenacity, and capacity to bear comments while we go through such a long process. And it's only from from 2015, or maybe I would say 2012 was the turning point, that the whole approach really fructified into an industrial standard code, thanks to the help of a lot of youngsters who put in effort in this approach. So from 2015 to present, there is no way looking back. We have really applied this to a lot of practical problems and of interest to the country's program. Okay, now I think, having given a brief introduction to the theory, really what I have covered is only maybe about 4 or 5% of the theoretical background. It will be really too boring if I really go into a lot of this theoretical background. So I have given a flair of how to solve the conservation equations on an arbitrary distribution of points. Having said that, I'll now be presenting a lot of applications, starting with a very simple geometries to the most complex one. So you can see here, follow past what is called as a biplane configuration. There are two aerofoils. So here we have generated a cloud of points by simple approach, two overlapping polar grids, or O type of grid it is called. These points are sourced from two structured grids. You can see from the kind of distribution of the points. Just please bear with me. I think a lot of aircrafts fly in this vicinity, so in between there will be a lot of sound. So you can see the kind of distribution of points around these two aerofoils is obtained by merging two O grids. Actually, this is sourced from, as I said, two structured grids. I take these two set of points and merge them and do suitable operations such that no point lies within a solid body. That is deletion of points. Then further away from this is only in the near field of these two aerofoils. Away from this, I need not really worry about getting this kind of structured grid. It is actually a Cartesian grid. So this shows the power. I can use any simple grid as tools for generating the cloud of points, combine them together to form a single large cloud of points. Then I would solve my conservation equations in the discrete form as I explained and solve this. So this is a typical case of transonic flow. Okay, 0.85 and alpha 0, these are the shock waves. So these are standard test cases which are there available in the literature for us to compare and tune our solvers. See, this was one of the, this is a 3D problem. Actually, this is a problem where there is actually no body. This is simulation of an intense blast wave. This problem is simple in the sense because of there is no geometry. What happens here, this is in the center of this domain, you have very high pressure at time region T0, it is released. Time and temperature, it is equivalent to a blast wave. We have a condensed region, a small region in which high temperature and pressure is released in time. Then we track how the shock wave propagates. Actually, this corresponds to a test case which is available in literature in the early 1960s. There is experimental results which were declassified at a much later time, and also a sort of analytical solutions were available for this. This is a simple propagation of blast wave in air, but we used our solver to really test our fluxes in the beginning. So in fact, you can see the comparison. There is no body as such here. It is only the unsteady propagation of the shock wave. So we are able to capture this. This was solved on a simple cuboid of grid. I'm just showing a central section. So this is the comparison of the result with the experiments, with the analytical solution and the CFD. So what I am comparing here is with time, what is the radius of the blast wave front. So what is compared here is the radius of the propagating blast wave. So in fact, we get a very good comparison. So this was one of the first problems we validated for the 3D mesh-free method. This is another kind of a sort of simple body, not as complex as a full aircraft, but still complex with respect to having fins, sharp edges. So again, these was some of the examples which we took up and solved for some supersonic flow over these kind of geometries. So this is the real aerospace type of geometry, a wing. This is called as the famous Onera wing, well-known validation test case for any of the CFD methods which are developed. These are the geometries against which people are supposed to validate. So here you can see we have compared our mesh-free solution, which is shown in red line. The dots are the experimental results. The black line is another CFD solver, which is a finite element method based solution. This was obtained by one of my senior colleague, Dr. Mathur. So we have validated So in CFD, there is two things. One is validation and verification, we call. So one part of it is we compare our solution with already existing and established CFD tools. So in this case, I have taken it is called a CBS, this is a finite element method. And this red one is the solution obtained by our MeshFree. So both of them compare well, and in turn, both these simulated results compare with the experiment. So what I said, these were all the results obtained during the validation stage. Still, it does not really indicate the power of MeshFree. These are only because as we were doing this validation over step by step over a period of time, of course, there was a lot of reviews and comments would come. Why MeshFree when already solvers are there? Solvers are there, giving good results. What is this? Is one more. N methods exist, and why N+1 method, which also gives the same result? So even though these validation results show that we also get results as good as other methods, but it does not really bring out the power of the MeshFree methods with this kind of geometries. Okay, before I really go into further 3D, this was one of the other applications we really used for the application of oscillations in a turbo machinery blade. So I'll not go into the details of this. This was one of the works which we did in our early period after validation. This was a sponsored work from GTRE, Gas Turbine Research Establishment, where we used our MeshFree approach for flutter related problems in turbo machine. So again, before we moved into real 3D complex geometries, this is another flutter problem, the external aerodynamics. What I showed previous was a flutter problem related to the internal flows. This is an example of flutter in the external aerodynamics. So this is a simple model. You have an oscillating aerofoil with 2 degrees of freedom. So here what we have to keep track of is you have to have a 2DOF structural module, which is coupled with an unsteady 2D CFD code. In this present case, 2D CFD code was our MeshFree code, which is an unsteady code. I have not explained the unsteady part of it, but it is similar. So having said that, this was the turning point in around 2010, 2012. We got a huge grant from Boeing aircraft company US to establish the feasibility of MeshFree method for really large industry standard problem. So the objective of this grant was to generate very large point clouds for complex bodies, and very large, I mean, to the extent of about 10 million nodes. In fact, to get, let me give an idea of the real size of this large cloud of points. When I say, so for example, 10 million nodes, discrete nodes, actually this 10 million nodes is sourced from different individual grids, which I explained some time back. So that means equivalently in the finite volume parlance, it is equivalent to about close to 40 million finite volumes. From those 40 million finite volumes, when I source only the nodes or the points, it will be about 10. So it is of the ratio of roughly 4 to 5. So when I say I want to solve my problem with a large point of cloud of the order of 10 million, actually I would be sourcing this cloud of points from close to 50 million finite volumes. So when I really generate such a large cloud of points, there is no way, simple way of looking into how, see, when I showed the example of aerofoil, the logic to find the hidden points or overlapping points is quite easy. I mean, that itself is a big, another topic which can be talked for hours. But what has to be dealt with this large crowd of points is to build a very intelligent preprocessor to delete points which are hidden in the body and also identify points which are overlapping. I also identify nodes which lie very close to the surface. These are the points which can cause real trouble when we try to solve the equations. So all these difficulties of identifying such regions, deleting points, or identifying the merged points, all this is done in the preprocessor. So this grant was given for us to develop and demonstrate develop the tools to demonstrate the feasibility of solving the mesh-free solver for such large industry standard problems. And especially having done that, if when you want to really track moving boundaries, then you have to repeat this procedure of generating the cloud of points at every instant, taking care of removing the hidden points, identifying the points which are merging together or points which are just grazing the given geometries. So you have to have a dynamic preprocessor. See, preprocessor represents the intelligence which is built into generating the cloud of points, removing the difficulties. Now, if there is a moving boundary, you have to repeat this procedure at every time instant. So we had to build a dynamic preprocessor which would take care of generating the right kind of points. See, having then generated a large cloud of points to solve that, then you cannot have a serial solver. I hope people are aware of this. I will not be able to explain in detail. One has to do parallelization of the code. So how do we do parallelization for a mesh-free? Because there are well-known methods for parallelization in the conventional finite volume method. So these were the various aspects we had to address, and they gave us close to about $400,000. That was the kind of funding we got. Okay, the whole complex process I try to explain in very layman term or simple terms. You can see at this figure you had already seen once. So this is the aircraft, as I said, and this is a main grid for the main parent aircraft. This is a grid for an attachment. So what do we do? I have just shown in a representative way. Below this, we can see this is a section of the wing, which looks like an aerofoil, let me say. So when you take a section, these are the points which you see, which are sourced from the main grid. So let us say there is a body which is below this wing. So what I do is I generate one separate grid around this body and source the points from that grid, which is represented by these green nodes. What I do is, you can see, I create a hole here in the main body. I create a hole in this plane, you can see, and I will delete all the points in this hole and fill this hole with the green points as shown here. See, this is a store cloud. I modify the store cloud as shown here, fit that here. So this is very, I would say the way it is represented here is very simple minded, but this is overall the process which is followed, but with lot of complex logic built into it. So that means I have a main cloud. I'll have suitable process of trimming this cloud from individual grids and fit that into the main cloud and merge it into one. So same thing, you can see a representative thing here. So this is the actual cloud over a wing, a section of the wing you can see. This is a cloud separately generated around a body which would be attached under the wing here. So what we do, we generate one cloud separately here, trim this suitably, this is the main cloud, create a suitable hole, fill this hole with this trimmed store cloud, and you get a combined cloud like this. So what I am showing here is the actual distribution of points for a particular case. So what you saw in the previous slide is this is a representative figure. The same process is shown with the actual cloud here for a particular case. Okay, I'll not go into this. So this actually shows the kind of speed up when we parallelize a code, the speed of getting the solution becomes much faster when we use number of cores. So this is one of those studies. I'll not explain those things here right now. Okay. So this is the kind of problem we now want to try with the kind of methods which I have explained for the point cloud generation. I would use those methods to solve problems of this kind. So what does this need? It is not just enough that if I have a mesh-free solver. To solve problems of this kind, we need to generate a suite of tools. So this we call it as a store separation suite. What all is needed? What are the kind of tools needed here? You need, first of all, a point cloud generator. So this point cloud generator is actually represents obtaining the clouds from individual grids, which I explained in great length. So we have one tool where we would combine the set of points from individual clouds. So that portion is taken care of by one individual tool called as point cloud generator. Then we have to build a lot of logic into it, deletion of points, addition of points. If it is unsteady problem like this, movement of this cloud also, individual clouds. So this is taken care in another part of the suite with a separate tool called as preprocessor. Then once these two tools operate, we get a cloud of points. On that cloud of points, we will run our 3D CFD solver. Once we get results, what the results are in terms of our basic quantities of flow, that is you get pressure, density, temperature. So these are, you get the solution for a particular configuration, and particular configuration meaning for a particular position of the body. So once you get, then you will be able to get derived quantities such as force and moments. Once you get force and moment, what we do is, this is a body which is released. So that means from the solution of the previous time step, you should be able to integrate those quantities of interest and move them. So once you want to move a certain rigid body, that means you now need to solve for the 6th degree of freedom. That is, you are given a body with forces and moments. That means you need, if you want to find the next position, you have to apply the laws of motion. Then you have to really build what is called a 6th degree of freedom, that dynamics code, where the dynamics of the movement of this released body will be tractable. So with the solution of the aerodynamic solution of the previous time step fed into the 6th DOF solver, you will be able to predict the motion of the body which is released to the next time step. So once the body, for example, here in the left side, you can see it has moved from position T0 to some position, next position. The movement from T0 to T1 is based upon the solution from the previous time step. Once you reach a new position, then again the aerodynamics change. So that means you have to again generate a cloud of points for this combination of the parent aircraft and the new body. So that means you have to go back to the point cloud generator tool. So all this is explained in the store separation suite as shown here. So briefly, I'll just tell you what is this. So you have one portion where you generate the cloud of points. First, you generate the cloud from each individual grid, combine them. That is, you will get one cloud from store cloud, or there may be multiple stores. So you combine them with the main code. That means each cloud, when it is generated, it will be with respect to the coordinates of its own body. But then you have to merge with respect to the main body. That means you have to do some transformations. So all this is taken care in this portion. You have a combined cloud, the solver will run on this. Then you get out the aerodynamic forces and moments. These things are applied on the rigid body which is moving. Then you get a new position. For the new position, again, you go back and repeat this procedure until the body has moved to a position where it would have safely separated out. Okay. So this is where we really move to a new stage, or really a higher stage of industrial applications. So this the validation for these kind of points, these kind of applications is totally different from what you find in the literature. It is not at all easy. It takes years of effort and a big team efforts. It is just impossible to do at an individual level. So we had to validate our computational data with the available results from various different agencies. So we did validation for all such kind of applications. And the most interesting part was none of these agencies would give us the data. Most of the data sometimes would be not just experiment, it would be actual flight data. So they would say, please go ahead with your computation, get the result, then we will share the experimental data. So we have gone ahead with our computations ahead of the data being available to us. And every time we have been able to match with the flight or experimental data. So these are some of the kind of comparisons. I think I'll just show you this slide. So this is one test case. You can see both look very similar, but one is actual, one is the CFD simulation, one is the actual flight data. You see the power of mesh-free. Now you can see that we are able to solve for such complex configurations with ease with respect to the generation of the cloud of points. The same kind of effort with the conventional solvers is doable, not impossible, but it would take a lot of effort in respect to the generation of grades, then post-processing. But we have been able to do this with a much easier effort with the mesh-free approach. Here is a slide which will give an idea of the scale of the times to solve such problems. Suppose this kind of problem, for example, which I just showed in the previous slide, has roughly about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is about 1.5 million nodes total. The size of the point cloud, that is the complete cloud of points surrounding the configuration. This is the order of number of points. In a serial mode, it would take 2 months to solve this problem. On the kind of machine we have. Again, I need to be very particular, I need to specify what is the processors I have, what is the clock speed. I will not go into those details. I want to just give you an idea of the scale of time. It would take about 2 months to solve this problem. But on a single node, where there are about 32 nodes, where each node actually has about 16 cores, which we solve, it will take 2 days. That is, once we made it parallel, but not massively parallel, it took from 2 months, we could solve in 2 days. But if we used 128 nodes, we have used 128 nodes, we are able to solve problem in 16 hours. So this is the typical application where the body is separating out from the main body. And what is the objective of this study is to find out the minimum distance between the parent body and the separating out with respect to time. So this is what is plotted here, what is called as the separation minimum distance. So with respect to time, monotonically, the minimum distance should increase. If it doesn't increase, what does it indicate? It indicates some portion of this body might be coming near to the parent aircraft and might hit. So the objective of this study is to show that monotonically the separation distance increases. And these are the various plots for various conditions. I think that's not necessary to know all these details, but you get an idea of what kind of application is possible with this kind of mesh-free solvers. So similarly, this is another application. See, I think what I would like to highlight here is, see, when I say it takes here, okay. When I said 16 hours to solve this problem, but this represents the time for convergence. Once the cloud of points are ready, then it takes 16 hours. But what is the time required to generate this kind of cloud of points where the solver is able to run? So how does this start? When I say we have a working cloud of points with its data of surrounding nodes, which is called as connectivity. So we have to start from CAD geometry, then clean up that geometry to CFD geometry, because Dr. Majumdar would know what this really means. It takes a lot of effort. When people supply us geometry, they give close to what is called as CAD geometries with lot of holes, overlapping surfaces. It takes a lot of effort to clean it and get a watertight CFD geometry. From this geometry, then, as I said, whole long process of generating this point cloud. There is a lot of steps here. Then it is not just that once I have a cloud of points, immediately the solver will work. There are many issues which might be a surprise, which will be known actually with each geometry. We will only know that it's very particular problems. So we'll have to solve in between untold problems here. So from there, we get a working connectivity from where the actual CFD solutions would start. So this typically, this whole cycle would take, for experienced team, it would take about a week. So once this is ready, then we are able to solve. And this is a great example where we were able to solve for a very urgent need. 40 trajectories were solved in 45 days. So this is a great achievement in the sense that we were able to solve these complex problems with average of 1 trajectory per day. Well, this was a part of a big problem which was taken up by NAL. It was not only our CFD division, it was across several divisions where several other issues were involved. It was a part of a big program. So you can see there is structures division, flight mechanics division, there is testing for tunnel testing division, then of course our CFD division. So this was one of the complex problems which I have been showing now once or twice. So this is the kind of problem which we solved. See, here the highlight is not only this body is moving, the geometry of the body which is moving itself changes with time. So we have to handle generation of dynamic cloud of points around each individual component, where the component geometry itself will change with time. So this is another example, not just one or two. We have solved multiple release of bodies from this geometry. And this is definitely a very, very tough problem, which is, in fact, this problem, I would like to recall, this came to us when certain groups were already trying to solve with commercial solvers. Actually, they thought they will get quick solutions. Definitely, commercial solvers do have a lot of advantages with respect to the graphic user interface they set up and the user friendliness, which is definitely not possible with the in-house solvers. So people went ahead with commercial solvers to solve a problem of this kind, and they really hit a wall. So this is when they came running to us. With our mesh-free solver, we were able to solve the release of multiple bodies from the aircraft. And this kind of problem, I think, if I remember, we used something close to 10 million nodes, which was sourced from different individual grids equivalent to 50 million finite volumes. So we were able to apply this mesh-free code for this kind of problem where multiple release of stores was there, most complicated. And this is where even commercial solvers found it very difficult to handle. So what you see is the front and back portion where with the time, how the separating bodies are moving. In fact, here the objective is not only that the bodies safely separate from the parent aircraft, they should not hit among themselves also. This is also one more objective of such a kind of study. Same thing from the side view. So what I would like to highlight in this application is, see, this is an indigenous technology. So there is no limitation. What do I mean by limitation? Because when you solve with commercial solvers, they come with a lot of limitation with respect to the fund which you give them. The more money you give them, the more number of cores you will be able to run. So if it is our own solver, in-house solver, there is no limitation to the number of licenses. There is no limitation to the number of cores you can use. And we can solve with assured accuracy. What I mean is, you can increase the number of size of your cloud of points. So this is where our indigenous technology, the mesh-free solver, we have named this mesh-free solver as parallel NAL MCIR solver. So I have made short form of this as Paranam. Actually, Paranam in Sanskrit means great name. Paranam. So it is actually parallel NAL MCIR solver. So this is one more typical application of not body separating from the parent aircraft. Recently, we had a challenge of finding, suppose you can see this is an aircraft, a civilian type of aircraft. Suppose these control surfaces start deflecting and you want to study the effect of the control surface deflection. In a conventional method, you would be required to generate one separate grid for each of this movement. So here what we did, exactly similar process. We had one cloud of points for the main aircraft, one around the surface where it is deflected. So once this is deflected, we only move those whole set of this green set of points and start merging them. So you can see this is one of the validation where mesh-free code has been used for control surface deflection, and we have compared with the available flight data and the normal other CFD solvers. We have got very good comparison. So these are the kind of very complex applications which we have been able to solve. Okay. So I think I'll leave another 10-15 minutes for any open for discussions, comments are welcome. So mesh-free method for CFD. Okay, I think even before I conclude, I should say, so does it mean this is the only mesh-free method? Definitely not. This is the mesh-free method, what we refer to as the kinetic theory-based mesh-free method, which we have developed. There are parallel other mesh-free, about at least 2-3 similar mesh-free approaches across the world. Different people have been using. This is the mesh-free method which we have developed and reached to a stage where it is applicable for industrial problems. So mesh-free method for CFD, we have moved from research table to practical applications. Large number of validations to begin with was done for 2D, 3D. So before we could apply for really complex geometries, the real potential of the mesh-free solver is realizable only with a powerful preprocessor. This was what we found out very painfully over a period of time. Unless we have a very powerful, intelligent preprocessor capable of handling very complex distribution of points, the potential of mesh-free solver would not be realizable. So we have built this. A group of very young scientists have been really putting a lot of effort. I would like to mention Niranjanan, Keshav, Manish. These are the people who have put a lot of efforts into this. We have only given ideas at later stage. They have really put a lot of effort in this. And all these efforts fructified in terms of building a separation suit, store separation suit, which has been useful for countries' aerospace programs. And lastly, but not the least, unless we have a powerful computing center, this would not be possible. So we have our own sister lab here, CSIR 4Pi lab, where the required computing facility is available. So with this, we have been able to do all these kinds of problem. So I take this opportunity to thank the organizers to give me an opportunity to share my experience. This is actually a summary of the work over the last 2 decades. So I hope, I'm sure it is not possible to present everything, but I hope I have given a flair of what is mesh-free method, and I hope new generation of students would be excited by this and get into these kind of activities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's a very wonderful session. We have got a lot of new things from you, and I hope our participants also got the knowledge of this mesh-free operations in CFD process. To carry forward, I would like to take some questions from the participants.
Sure.
The first question from Arsimanti sir: what are the commercial softwares available for mesh-free analysis?
Oh, see this mesh-free. All the commercial solvers. There is no mesh-free commercial solver. It is either finite volume. Most of it is finite volume. There is no commercial solver which operates in the mesh-free approach.
Okay, sir. Thank you. The next question is from Amlan Kumar. What is the method to form mesh-free grid in ANSYS software?
See, I think once you know, see all these ANSYS or all NUMECA, many commercial solvers, CFD++, they all depend on certain kind of mesh. It could be more nowadays. I think multi-block structured grid is not there. Most of it is unstructured grids, and there is nothing like a mesh-free part in any of this solver.
Okay, sir. The next question from Sagar Mani is about, can we use the mesh tree method for solving any type of problem? For example, combustion, fluid flow, two-phase, etc.
Sure. See, this is way of this. See, mesh-free method is a way of discretizing the physical space around the given configuration. So, but when you say combustion or any other problem, they are the different kind of physical phenomena, which depending on the physical phenomena, your governing equations will change. But mesh-free method is valid. It is the way of numerical discretization. So, if you have solvers where the combustion is modeled, it should be possible to solve using mesh-free method also.
Thank you, sir. I think the question has been. Yes, one more question, sir. How dynamic mesh differ from mesh tree method?
See that what dynamic mesh in general means is that the mesh is dynamically generated for every time step. That is, if you have moving components, so like the applications which I showed, there are stores released from the body. Then at every instant of time, the mesh is dynamically regenerated, or sometimes it may be overlapped, but that overlap region dynamically changes. So in such kind of approaches, dynamic meshes mean you continuously generate the mesh dynamically for every time instant. And if you have chimera type of approach, then that means the dynamic meshes would be overlapping at different regions. But here, what happens is we forget the mesh structure. We just have a cloud of points. That here, what happens with respect to time, when the body takes different position, the two clouds are merged and demerged. So the process is similar. Instead of having a grid structure, we will be dealing with the cloud of points. I hope I have tried to explain.
So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
As per Mylan is concerned, some problems we are doing finite volume and finite difference methods. And as per Mylan is concerned, one Dassault system means you might be knowing that industry has because is having one sort of Simulia that is using hybrid method actually. There is Explo also by Simulia. It is purely based on mesh tree method.
As I said, true. See, there are no commercial mesh-free solvers, but actually close to about maybe, I don't know the exact number. The in-house, especially big organizations and some of the, I right now don't remember the exact place in Europe, they have called as generalized finite point methods. Which, I mean, sometimes mesh-free is also referred to as generalized finite point method. So there are people who have applied these mesh-free methods. So in India, I think, let me mention, we at NAL as well as at DRDL, Dr. Anantha Narayanan, I think we both were together students with Professor Deshpande. So we have developed this mesh-free method. So both are kinetic mesh-free method based on the kinetic scheme. So these are the two places in our country where mesh-free solver is there. And elsewhere also, yes, there is there are groups who are doing mesh-free solvers for quite complex problems, but nothing is available as a commercial solver. It is their in-house efforts.
Yeah. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Dhanesh Sakar, we'll see that one. Now, a very nice session, sir, an informative session, and most of the participants enjoyed a lot.
Thank
now,
you.
I request all the participants to please switch on your video so that we'll take a session with sir. Major. Friends, so we have already shared the feedback link. Okay, so you can share your feedback accordingly. So with this today, we could complete the second day, 3 sessions of the second day. And I thank our resource persons and also all the participants for getting conducted the 2-day session smoothly. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So thank you all participants. Tomorrow again, please join by 9:50 a.m. We'll start the 3rd day sessions.
Okay.
Till that, thank you all.
Thank you all.